So, folks, we are live this morning on the Man Surgeries with the very lovely Susan Watson, not Wilson, Watson. Susan and I, over the last 3 days, the Monday, the Friday, and today, what we've noticed that there is a little pattern, and that was that we were speaking quite a bit about kids and how we can sort anxiety with kids. So, Susan very kindly offered to do this morning session all about children and how to help children with anxiety. Certainly something that I know that I'm going to take a few hints and tips from, because as many of you know, I have little Noah, who is autistic amongst other things, and needs lots of support and lots of help. So take as many notes as you like and ask any questions during this first 30 minutes. And we will get to your questions at 10 o'clock, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So, Mrs. Watson, or Dr. Watson, shall we call you?
I don't think so. Mrs. Susan. Let's just call me Susan. Right. Kids and anxiety is a massive range, right? And it's a huge subject. So I've only got an hour. So I've sort of thinned it down to initially information that will be helpful, and then sharing some methods that you can use. So the information, first of all, what I want to say is that I don't like talking about anxiety disorders, because anxiety disorders make out that someone's going to have that for a lifetime. But I personally don't think it has to be for a lifetime. I think anxiety can be overcome with self-care. But it is estimated that around about pre-COVID, about 1 in 4 young people experienced anxiety. And it's important to deal with that as young as possible, because when it's long-term overwhelming anxiety, it can lead to issues with mental health as they get older. Now, I get a lot of parents contacting me about their kids with anxiety. And this part of this message that I want to get out is really important, that there are normal fears and that certain levels of anxiety are absolutely normal. It doesn't mean that your child is ill, right? So fears and worries are a normal part of development. All our development is how you learn what's safe and what isn't. As caring parents or caring carers, we can look at this and think there's something wrong. That child's anxious, what do we have to do? Let's rush them to Susan, or we need to go and find out there's something wrong. It's not always the case. It's a normal development stage as well. So I'm just going to read through a few things here for you. For example, when a baby's first born, its natural fear of development at that stage is loud noises or being dropped. That's the 2 fears that a baby has. When a child gets to 1 or 2, you're starting to look at then there's more of a fear of strangers, people that they don't know, perhaps going to the toilet activities can become a problem, or falling and being hurt. So any anxiety shown around that is perfectly normal for that age. When they get to 3 or 5, you're looking at, you might see fears of animals coming in, like fear of dogs and things like that. Monsters, the dark, don't want to be alone, they're really clingy. That is absolutely normal. And that's a learning for that age as well. When kids get to about 6 or 9, you're talking about the thunder and lightning, personal safety. You might see them starting to think about death. You might see them getting scared and not wanting to go to sleep because they think that they're going to die. Fear of school, they start to get school stress coming into that. And when they get to 9 to 12, you're looking at like school exam stress, test stress. They're starting to become more aware of peers as well, social interactions. And then the news, politics, all the stuff that's going on in the world after that as well. Now, I get approached by parents about these things all the time, but that is how we learn. That only becomes a problem when it really prevents normal living, when it impacts their joy for life. They've been able to actually take part in anything at all, and it's overwhelming them. Yes, at that point they may need help, but just seeing that doesn't mean there's a problem. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because there is a difference. It's also important, I've mentioned this in my previous talks, that anxiety is really contagious. If you've got one person with anxiety in the house, I can guarantee that everybody in that house will experience anxiety. Because the minute somebody fires up, you fire up as well, without a doubt. So you cannot help an anxious child in any way at all if you are not self-regulated. Because if you have that high level of hypervigilance and anxiety yourself, and you have an anxious child that kicks off, right? You're just going to fire off like a rocket because your whole body and nervous system will react to that. And that is an absolutely normal reaction. So what I always say when people come to me with anything to do with the kids, it can't just be about the child. It's got to be about the whole family, the whole household have got to do it, everybody, and any influence, like if they spend time with grandparents or if they spend time with childminders or whatever, they have got to be involved in that as well. There's a whole picture around that child that actually needs work done. When I get kids brought to see me, I bring a parent in as well, and we work as a team, because it's not the child, it needs to be the family. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Right. Anxiety spreads, so that's why it's really important to do that, without a doubt. It's also important to think when kids getting anxious, and it's all again back to these motor neurons and how why it's the family, we all pick anxiety up for each other. It comes through, it's through your senses, it's a sensory reaction. So that a child could be sitting in the room and mum and dad maybe having an argument, or they've seen something on the telly, or hearing something, or thinking about something. And it's all these senses that start to increase anxiety levels. Now, for the people that have been on my previous sessions, you'll remember that I was talking about going into toxic stress, and you dial it down. This is when the kids are in the toxic stress. What you're likely to notice is they'll start to avoid things that make them fearful, or they'll have adaptive behaviours. They'll behave in a way which they develop their own coping skills, but we recognise that that's not right. But to that child, they're doing something to help them cope with situations. That makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to read something out to you, and this is it's from the Childhood Foundation, and it's to help parents recognise what's going on in their child. Now, I want to absolutely stress here again, no one can help a child self-regulate unless they have regulated their own nervous system. You have to be in a place of calm to help it out. In fact, to help anybody with anxiety, because you'll both be firing each other up like nothing on earth. It'll just become almost impossible. So when a child's feeling safe, what you're going to recognise is they'll be able to make eye contact. They'll be listening and they'll be able to play and explore and find out what's going on. But when they're in that state, that healthy state, what they're actually feeling is I'm safe, I'm calm, I'm curious. They might even feel sad and annoyed, but they're not in that fired up state. So they can still do these things. Now, our body, because our nervous system's in our body, is what sends us signals, right? And what their body is saying that I can sit still and I can breathe deeply and I'm all right. What you need to do, or what we need to do as adults, carers or parents, is remember to maintain them in that, is to play with them and have fun with them. Kids like playing fun. To be a good role model, because what the kids can do is, with anxieties, it can also be a learned behaviour. There's a very small genetic factor, as in the genes don't make you have anxiety, but it might make you react a certain way if you have anxiety, if that makes sense. But a lot of it can be learned behaviours and also what your own sensory is bringing in. Learn on problem solving. So sit with them when an issue comes up and talk them through it to see if you can look at different ways how that situation could have ended differently. So they can identify how to solve and do things differently. Because that's really important. You're empowering the child here. If you have a child whose nervous system's activated, overactivated, you're likely to see aggression. You'll see, they'll be loud. Look at me. They'll be fighting, running away, hyperactive. That is a child with an overactive nervous system. They're fired up to that toxic stress. Okay? What they're actually, now all we're seeing is the aggression, the loud, the hyperactivity. But what they're actually feeling inside them that we're not seeing is they're feeling the anxiety. They're actually feeling frightened. They could be lonely, hurt, confused, but mainly they're just overwhelmed. And because they're so overwhelmed, they react with aggression and noise. Okay? They're not meaning to, they can't help it, it's just instinctive. What their body is telling them is, I can't sit still, I need to move, I need to run away, I'm too hot, this is too much. And that's why they react in that way. They have no control over that. That is a fully expected and normal way for a child to react when their nervous system is in that way. So the big question here, as a carer or as an adult or as a parent, how do we help them? You need to make them feel safe. They need to know, keep me safe, am I safe? This is where the co-regulation comes in, where you have to be in a calm place. To be responsive and attuned to them, you have to be that calm person. Because if you've got a child that's aggressive, loud, running about, all the rest of it, and you're stressed, you're instantly going to fire up. What the bloody hell are you doing? You can't help it. That's just how it is. So you need to be calm. Also, you can create a safe area in the house that they can go to, and they know that is their safe, calm place, that everything's all right there. If they go and just sit in that space, they're absolutely protected and safe, and they can just allow themselves to come down, because that is their place. And that's a really good, handy one. Also, model your breathing. When you're in the same room with someone and you're trying to calm someone down, and I'm talking about how our bodies pick up senses for each other, if you're just actually taking deep breaths, without saying anything, just taking deep breaths, you will find that they start to sink in with you, and they'll start to take deep breaths too, without you even saying, do your breathing, come on. You don't need to do anything. You just need to be with them and doing deep breaths. And that'll actually change their breathing cycle naturally, and they'll start to do that. And that's our motor neurons. How, yes, we pick up anxiety for people, but that works in a good way. We can pick up the calm and the breathing automatically as well. So remember, you don't even need to say anything. Just by changing that will change them. They change their breathing automatically. That instinctively calms them down anyway. That's a good one, a handy one. You also want to reassure them and let them know once it's died down that, you know what, our relationship's okay. I love you, you're safe, I'm here for you. Everything's all right. Because what that child's likely to do is starting to feel shame and guilt and feel bad. Right. Do you want me to talk about how we self-regulate, Stephen, or do you know how to do that?
No, what I've done is I've put a link there in the chat box. I've put that link in there because obviously when you're talking about the self-regulation, there might be people who haven't watched that video yet. So if you click on that link, that will give you a link to the YouTube video from last week that Susan and I had done about like the wet noodle. And
yeah, that's a good idea to do that.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. I should have said that, shouldn't I? But I didn't.
Teamwork makes the dream work, Mrs. Watson.
When it goes past normal anxiety, stress, meltdowns, you can actually, it's almost like immobilization. When everything becomes just too much, you can see a child really withdrawn. They stop speaking, they go into themselves. They're very distant. They may be very compliant with you, but they're just sort of hiding and they don't want anything to do with anyone. That is almost like a state of collapse, when their nervous system has just been so overwhelmed, they just can't cope with it anymore. Now, what they're feeling inside is flat, I'm disappearing. I want to disappear, I don't want to be here. Start to disconnect from their body. They just feel like out of it. It's just too much for their senses, especially as children with very oversensory or undersensory. What their body is saying to them, you have to avoid others, because they're getting that hide away, avoid others. I'm not in my body, I want to curl up in a ball and just hide for the world. That's what they're feeling. So to help a child with that, it always comes back to as well co-regulation. So you've got to calm down to go into it. Telling them that they're safe through gestures in your voice. So if you imagine, if you want somebody to be safe, you can't be shouting, get up out of there, get in your room. Because when they're in that state, you've got to be very calm voiced. And to have that calm voice, you've got to be in a state of calm. It just pretending won't work, right? You have to be in that state of calm. What you can do is get them to start feeling grounded by saying, right, let's look at things in the room. It could be look for something green, look for a cup, look at the TV. Just get them to notice things in the room so they can start to see what's in the room and notice things outside what's going on in their body. Ask them to press their feet into the floor so they can feel the floor under them. If they're lying on the floor or lying back, ask them to feel the floor under their back or the chair behind them. You're getting to notice, getting them to see things and notice sensations out with what is inside them. And what that does is that brings them back into the world, if you like, and starts to get them to focus. Get them to notice their body parts. Have a look at your feet. Hold your hands up. How many fingers have I got? Do you know, things like that? And it's drawing them back out in the world. And again, absolutely, once this is all over, remind them how important you are to you and how whatever's happened, you've got a really good relationship together and you're always there for them and they're safe with you. Does all that make sense?
Absolutely.
Really true. It is. But number one key, without a doubt, is you have to be regulated. You go near a child that is like that in a stressed and anxious place, it's just all going to go to potty.
See, one thing that we do, Susan, that really helps, I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, is tracing your finger up.
I'm just going to come to that, Stephen. It's my hand breathing. Yes, I am.
Yeah, so they breathe and they trace their finger. It works really well.
In and out like that. But I'll come to that in a few minutes. So don't take my magic, right?
Sorry.
You button it. See, that's me dysregulated. Flopping like a noodle. Right. I think as well what I see, right, well, it's important to go back to wee kids. What you'll see is you'll rarely have them saying, I'm feeling anxious. You'll see the sore tummies, the headaches, not wanting to go to bed, all these kind of things. Like I had a little girl a couple of years ago that came to see me and she was about 5. And I always speak to the child, not the parent. So I'd say to her, hello, I'm Susan. What brought you here? What do you want to speak about today? What's been happening? And she goes, oh, I have anxiety. And I can tell you now, there's no child of 5 that'll turn around and say, I have anxiety. They might say, I can't sleep at night because I think there's monsters in my bed. But the minute someone says to me, I have anxiety, that is a parent telling them that they've got anxiety. So you've got to be careful of that as well, because you start to feed it. With the best intentions, you start to feed it. You do.
Can I ask a quick question with that? Now, this for me was a huge, big thing, right? So when Noah was diagnosed with, so he was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and obsessive compulsive disorder. So Nikki and I were really against telling him this, but the psychiatrist and whoever the team is that were working with him, they are so pro telling the child their diagnosis. They were like, this is really important that he knows what he has. But I think that's really counterproductive.
I think it depends on what age and what's going on. Like, I know that, for instance, with my grandson, he never got told right away. But I think it's important when the child starts to notice that they're not fitting in. If they're not aware of anything, I would just let them go on. But if they start to notice that they're different from other children, that perhaps, like some kids with autism, want to make friends and want to have friends, but they don't know how to. So they just stand there and watching other people with friends. If they're then saying things that they're starting to feel different, and you're they're noticing that they're different, I would maybe have a talk, but it's not necessarily giving them diagnosis. It's just saying that I would just say everybody's different. This is you. You're special. This is what makes you you, and this is what makes them. I guess it's a choice by a parent, really. How you feel as a parent.
I'm not discounting anybody in the medical field at all, but I think that really, and I've had discussions with Noah's doctors about this and that. I do think that it needs to be reviewed slightly, maybe.
I think there's a time. I think there's a time for it. But that's again, do you know what? This is all just my personal view. Mm-hmm. I think it's got to come down. I wouldn't say the decision got to lie in a doctor's hands. I think it's got to be the carer or parents' time when you know that child and you know it's the right thing. If and
Yeah,
when to
'cause
tell them.
I find that Noah really plays on that, you know, like, so if we, you know, if we're telling him off for things, because we do tell him off for things, because when his behaviour's not right, it has to be addressed, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I'll say, this is wrong, you need to stop acting that way. And he says, it's my autism and my ADHD.
I'll say, no, it isn't, because it's you, Noah. Because actually, your autism and ADHD is only a small bit of you. See the bit that misbehaving? That's you. I'd be saying, we've got boundaries and we've got rules in this house, and you've got to live by my rules. No
Yeah.
excuses. That's what I'd be saying.
It's hard
Because
though.
autism does not make the child. The child is just that. Autism is just the way their mind thinks or their body reacts. They're still a little boy. He's still a little boy who's got to know what to do wrong. There's no excuses. I'm a right ogre. It's like, no excuses.
No, not at all. I think that is the problem. I think that a lot of people will, you know, it's all right, they've got ADHD and autism, but actually they know right from wrong. They know.
Oh, absolutely. My grandson comes to my house and he starts doing it. And I'll say, listen, Blair, come here. I'll say, there's rules in this house. This is Granny Susan's house. You do what I say here. And he's like, you're a shouty granny. I said, yes, I am. Come, not regulate.
Well, I'm the strict daddy because I tell them off.
Well, I think that all kids need to know healthy boundaries are good for anyone, no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
I think it's really good as well. I've noticed actually in later years that there's a lot of kids now that everybody has to win. Everybody has to be number one, right? They have to have the best at everything. They have to be the best. It's like everybody's aiming for perfection. And somewhere along the line, we need to change that and let our kids know that it's okay to be second, third. Do you know it's okay to be last? There's lessons in there to help you grow. Where I see a lot of kids coming to me now, and I genuinely do, they've got real struggles about not being perfect and not always being the best. And to me, there's nothing wrong with having goals and having that drive and that focus and really wanting to do your best. But there's an acceptance that not everybody can come out number one. Not everyone can win that gold medal or that badge. But what you've got to do is recognise, right, this is how well I done here. Well done for what I got here. But what can I change if I want to get better at that? Rather than focus on the losing, to focus on your success, but see how you can grow in that. That's missing in the world at the moment. I mean, I have seen a marked increase in real struggles with young people who believe that they should be perfect. And I always say to them, there's no such thing as perfect. As soon as you set yourself up to be perfect, you're setting yourself up to fail, because nobody can be perfect.
It's interesting you say that, because see, when I'm in the schools and I'm working with the kids, and you know how I go out to the schools and do the meditation classes with kids, haven't since COVID, but the one thing that I notice is that lots of the kids, they give themselves such a hard time if they can't meditate. I'm rubbish at this. I'm really bad at this. And I'm like, guys, you're meditating. It doesn't matter what it is it doesn't matter how you're doing it. You're still managing 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes. And you're right. There's a huge, big.
They're really taking it to heart, Stephen. I'm seeing young people as young as like 9 and 10 going into dark holes of depression because they're not perfect. That isn't good at all. They can't see what their success is and what they're actually doing well. They can only see that area that they're not doing good enough. And that's where I think is really important, which I'm going to come into now, that we need to start focusing on successes more with young children.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to move on to some exercises. So some of them are age dependent, some are good for young children, and they change with the age, because not everybody wants the same thing. So I call it Jerry Smiles. Every day, just get a bit of paper and a jam jar and just write something down that has made you feel good that day. Just drop it in the jar, and then they end up with a wee Jerry Smiles. Or with younger kids, I've used worry monsters. Now you get the worry monsters with a zip on the mouth.
Yeah.
Get them to write down their worries and feed the monster. I do that in my work groups. Main reason for that is it gets it out of their head. onto paper and they're feeding it to the monster. So that works well. But also I use art quite a lot with children. So I get them to draw. What I would normally do is get them to draw what's bothering them. It's good because they don't need to tell me anything unless they want to narrate a story to it. They can draw what's bothering them, then I can get them to draw how they want to feel. So they can draw a special place. And I had a wonderful young boy that was coming to me 2 or 3 times that had a tremendous fear of death with COVID. And it was absolutely really torturing him, and he was in a really bad place. And I got him to draw this special place where he could go to, where he felt safe. And it was in space, it was another planet, but it was made up of chocolate and cocoa and all his favourite sweets, right? And I got him to tell me a story about it, and he was really excited to tell me about all his favourite sweets and chocolate. And just by doing that and building up that drawing of this special place that had all these wonderful things in it that he liked, that made him feel safe, and he started laughing about it. He actually just, like that, he just turned around and he looked at me. And I wasn't expecting this, because he was only 10. He went, my fear's gone now. And he went, I'd like to thank you, Susan. He goes, I'd like to thank you for that because I'm no longer scared. But I'm taking my drawing home, my special drawing home. And he was really polite, eh? And I was just like, literally, I had done nothing. All I'd done was draw this special thing on the paper. And he had built this picture in his mind of this beautiful place made of chocolate that he could go and visit. Bearing in mind, your mind believes everything that you tell yourself and imagine. It's like self-hypnosis. He had actually done all the work himself. He moved himself from a place where he could not sleep for a fear of, frozen with fear of death, to a chocolate world that he could visit when it was bedtime, and he felt absolutely wonderful. And he never had to come back. And I felt a bit guilty actually, because he kept thanking me and he had done it all himself. And I did tell him that. I said, you've done that yourself. And I said to him, you're going to help lots of other little boys and girls now because I'll share that with them. And they'll know that they can do that too. And he was like, oh, I'm so proud. Thank you for saying that. He was just so sweet. But sometimes kids can find their own. If you let their imagination go, they can find their own answers. Singing, dancing, drinking water, weighted blankets, all these things can help. Sometimes it takes a bit of experimenting to find what's right for your child. What I like, because I use it a lot, is visualization. What I would normally do is in a one-to-one or in a workshop, is just get them to close their eyes, take a nice deep breath, nice and relaxed, just simply ask them. I've actually got Harry Potter wands some wee kids get, right? But I would say, just imagine you've got a magic wand. You had a magic wand, and you could see in your mind now exactly how you want to feel and how you want to be. What's that like? And you just get them to talk about it. You get them to describe what it looks like, what it feels like, similar to doing the drawing, because they're building up that place in their head, and then they know then how they want to feel. And then they're also building up that imaginary place in their mind that they can go and visit whenever they need it. Bearing in mind that the more you think about something, the more you get it. And that's true. So it really works that way. Now, I don't know if I've talked about the reticulator factor system in the brain before. I'll touch on it briefly, how it works. You're probably going to challenge me here because you think it's manifesting, but I'm telling you it isn't. Or maybe a mix of both. We'll call it a mix of both.
It is a mixture of both. Yeah. But you're absolutely right, because the whole manifesting, I hate that word, creating what you want comes from that part of the brain.
Yeah. I have a little section in our brain what's called the reticulator factor. And our brain can only filter about 7 pieces of information at a time. All it brings in for the world. That's why every one of you will take something different away from this session today, because you've all got different agendas. So that bit of information is linked to what you're giving your focus and attention on. That's all it is. So once you've activated that part of your brain for what you're giving focus and attention on, it knows to filter more information relating to that into your life and into your mind. For example, someone who's looking for, let me think, someone who's looking for buying, I'm just making something up here, a red Range Rover, You want a red Range Rover. I don't know if you can get a red Range Rover if you wanted one. You'd went to the car showroom and you thought, that's the car I want. I'm going to buy that, right? This is it. I'm getting it. You'll start to notice as you walk along the road that you'll start to see all these red Range Rovers everywhere that you'd never noticed before. You start to think, well, everybody seems to have red Range Rovers. The reason for that is you've activated that part of your mind, which will then filter that information in. It also does that if you're focusing on something that you want and that you're giving your full attention to it, it actually starts to filter in opportunities for you to achieve that. The opportunities have always been there, but because you've not activated that part of your mind in your filter, you just never noticed them. So you can do that with visualization for whatever you want to achieve. And I'm looking at you, Diane, because I'm still thinking about ice skaters here. Focus their attention on how they want to perform, what their goal is. The more they do that, they light up that part of their brain. They can activate and increase their skills just by visualization, start to see more opportunities and ways to develop and grow. And that is without a fact of truth. You can do that with anxiety for calm, peace, and all, anything that you want to achieve in your life. Just knowing that you can only filter minimum things in, and by focusing on what you want. I guess that's what you do with meditations a lot as well, really, aren't you? You're activating that part of your brain.
Yeah, it's the same with my motivational coaching that I do with people. It's actually called the RAS system.
Right, Reticulated Activating System.
Yeah, you've maybe heard of it being called that, and it's about like really seeing and believing yourself in that place, and then of course it becomes your reality because that's what you see. I do it a lot with Noah as well. I do a lot of like how would you like to feel? I want to feel calm. So let's feel that now. What does calm mean to you?
Exactly, and get them to think about how all their senses, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, what does calm feel like when you touch yourself? If you engage all the senses, it makes it stronger and bolder in their mind. The most important thing is really being that, it's not that's how I want to feel, it's this is how I feel, and then think of all the senses, and that just makes it encode into the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good that you're doing that.
Do you know another thing that I love to do, Susan? I just want to add a wee bit of value to the stuff that you're saying there. Is when I'm doing the meditation with kids, what I do is I get them all lying on the floor. They're all on mats. Sometimes they're not on mats. They're just on the bare floor. And I've got I didn't even have him with me. He's in the shop. I've got the Medi Teddy, so it's a little meditation teddy bear.
Right.
And they put the Medi Teddy on their tummy.
Good for breathing. It goes up and down in that as well.
Or a pillow on their tummy.
I use that in my workshops as well, when I do the kids' workshops. I make up names for things. They're probably not even true names that I make up. I just like to make up daft things.
But when you focus on that going up and down, it makes such a big difference because basically they're focusing on it going up and down. They're focusing on moving it up and down. But the only way they can move it up and down is by taking deep breaths.
Right. I do a lot with the workshops. It's not just kids on their own. I do it with the parents and the kids. But because there's a special thing, I'm actually learning them both to self-regulate together and do things together. So it works quite well. Hand breathing that you were talking about, what I do is, now this works very well if someone's panicky more than anything, because we've got that. Want somebody to breathe, but you can do it this way because it gives them a focal point. So they need to look at my hand, and you can just do the breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Well, actually, it'd be the other way around. Breathe in.
No, that's right. You're doing it right.
Breathe in, breathe out. And just do that, because then you're encouraging their breaths as you go down the fingers, and it's normally, as you've went over that twice, they'll have come out a panic attack twice.
That's a big game changer.
And the focus, because you're actually saying, no, look at the hand. You're taking their mind away from the panic and what they're feeling, giving them something to look at, and then you can get them to do their breathing. And that works really well. I know that you were saying that you do that.
It's honestly, it changes everything. Another thing that I've started doing with Noah since your video the other day is the two fingers. So
Oh, aye.
I'd said to him, because on Friday night there, he had a complete meltdown. I said, Noah, sit down for a moment. Hold your hands like this until you feel a pulse. And he's like, where do I feel the pulse? In my fingers or in my hand? Or where am I meant to feel it? I was like, where do you feel it? I'm feeling it in my hand. Okay. So just keep squeezing. And it brought him from here way down.
Good.
And what a difference it made, you know. And we had to do a few things over and over. So I was like, right, wet noodle onto the floor, and he's like flopping on the floor. Right, back up, hands, squeeze, hard as you can, wet noodle, and he's having fun with it, and he's focused
Aye.
on that. And it completely dislodged the meltdown that he had.
I think fun's the important part. Another thing that I say to people as well, you cannot expect the child to come into your world and be how you expect them to be. You have to go into the child's world and experience the world that they're experiencing. And I think that's really important.
So Nikki had done something yesterday with the kids. I don't know if you'd seen, she posted it on my Facebook page, but and I wanted to show you. So she got cups, red cups from the shop, and cut the bottom of the cup out.
That doo-doo-doo. So it looks like trumpets.
So then she got googly eyes, and she got the eyes on the sides, and then she got some pieces of paper. The easiest way is to show you. So just tissue paper, or you could use normal paper, get the kids to colour it in, and then sellotape the paper onto the inside of the cup, like that.
Right.
And the kids go, and they want to make the flames, so it's basically a dragon's head.
All right, all right.
So it maybe looks better the way it's meant to be on that side. And they blow, and they have to get the flames going.
Yeah.
But
it's doing the breath as well, actually, so that's really good. That is good.
So panic attack or feeling stressed, grab a cup. Come on, make
well done, Nikki. That's good. That is good.
Well, Nikki's studying to be a mental health nurse right now, so she's doing a lot of the stuff with kids and all that kind of stuff.
I like that one. I would use that. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm also want to talk a bit about the language that we use, because our unconscious mind, the part that makes our hair grow, heartbeat, nervous system, all that stuff, only picks up on certain words. I think I've talked about this with you. For example, if I was to say you don't think of a pink elephant, you instantly think of a pink elephant, right? You just do, because I've said it. And that is what you don't want to focus on. You don't want to focus on the don't do's. You only want to focus on the good stuff that you want to achieve. You never talk about or ask for the things you don't want. For example, losing weight, I don't want to say, I don't want to be so fat. I don't want to eat the crisps. I don't want to eat the cakes, because then all I'm thinking about is fat cakes and eating them, basically. What I want to think is I want to eat healthier. I want to be slimmer. I want to feel better about myself. That's a motivational way of thinking. And it means that, again, you're activating that part of your mind to healthier, slimmer, all your goals. But if you're talking about the fat or the crisps and the cakes, and all you think about is everything that you don't want. Same with working with children. Get them to focus on what they want to change, not how they don't want to feel. So if they're saying, I don't want to be sad and angry, I don't want to be worrying, I don't want to think of death, you don't want to think about death, sad and angry. What you want to think about is calm, peaceful happiness and getting a good night's sleep, these sort of things. So all the things you don't want, you get rid of them and you focus on the things that you want to make the difference. Because it all goes in there and it just affects the filter, what filters in. You focus on the stuff that you don't want, or you don't want to feel, you're just going to filter more of that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
True, really true. It's an important way of working, because it's naturally we just seem to do it. Imagine a child walking over your living room with a cup of juice and it's sort of splashing over the top. Your instincts are, don't spill that. And they go all over the place, right? But if you were to say, hold that tight, put it carefully down on the table. You can see the concentration as they hold it and put it down. But the minute you say don't spill it, it goes up in the air because all you hear is spill that. Woof!
Oh,
That's it.
Susan, I love that.
True.
I'm like, get that out of here.
It's true, because that's just natural. It's how our minds work. There's also something now in the books, it's called the fear ladder. I don't call it the fear ladder. You'll gather by now how I work. I call it the confidence ladder. Why would I call it the fear ladder? Why would I want any child to climb a fear ladder? I want them to climb the confidence ladder. So what you can do, it's about setting goals. Say that somebody that was really shy and they couldn't speak to somebody and didn't mix with children. You might, on each run of the ladder, set a tiny little step for them to do. Maybe, for example, just say hello to somebody. They can go up a run of the ladder. Do something, anything at all that they can choose. They might be able to go and ask the teacher a question. They can go up another run of the ladder. So all these little runs of the ladder are little confidence steps that they're taking. And I think that's far more positive than calling it a fear ladder. I would never call it a fear ladder. And it might be that they can say hello to somebody at the shop when they're with their payments, or ask a question about homework, or maybe say hello to a friend, anything like that. All these little things. And then when they get to the top of the ladder and they've done all these things, they could get a little prize or a little thing. What we used to do was, like things that cost 50 pence or something, we used to wrap them up, all wrapped up. They were in a box of maybe 10 different things. So it was like a lucky dip. And a child could just, once they got to the top of the ladder, they could just take a lucky dip. I mean, it's nothing, but today it was a prize. Look what I've done, I've earned that. And it makes them feel really good.
We've got a build up box in the kitchen. So it's like a plastic jar with pom-poms. So at the beginning of the week, Noah starts with an empty jar and then it gets filled with pom-poms. The more good things he does, the more self-regulated he is, the better chance he has of getting a bigger pom-pom to put into the...
That's good.
Really works.
I'm going to show you a few of the things. Depending on the age of the child, I use different things. So example, let's see what I've got here. I've got stones, painted stones. I'll just show you a few of them. So it's a little box. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Got that one. And I've got one about school. You see that?
Oh, nice.
Maybe another one. And there's ones with rainbows. Ones like with families that are loved. All different things. There's other ones with angry faces and things like that. Because I don't do a lot of talking. I don't know. I'll ask them to pick stones in relation to how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be picking out a stone with a sad face or a happy face. And what I normally do at the end of it is, because I tell them a little story, and kids like this. And it's true though, these are hand-painted stones from an artist in the Ukraine. So they came all the way from where Russia is, I say to them, and they were painted by somebody just for me. So there's nobody else in the world that has these apart from me. And it's true. And I'll say, but you're so special. I'm going to give you one of my special stones. And you can pick any one you want. And you're going to be the only person in the world that'll have that, because you're as special as how special this is to me. And honestly, see the difference in their faces. And I'm talking about teenagers as well. They pick it and they just think, oh my God, that's so awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's just a small thing, but it actually makes somebody feel that there is something precious about them. Because a lot of the kids that come here don't feel precious. They've forgotten that they are important. So that I like doing that. And then I've got my wee basket here, which is full of crap, actually. Just tiny little worry dolls. So I've got little worry dolls that I can give to them. And I can say to them, when you're not here talking to me, or you feel you've got nobody to talk to, stick your worry doll under your pillow. I'll be listening to your worries. Cards. See them? They've all got different things on the back. They're more for teenagers. So this one, for example, is a task to take away and introduce every week a different task into your life. And what they do is they pin it on their wall. And this one, stand tall. Spend some time throughout today thinking about standing or sitting up straight, because our posture can affect our mood and thoughts. So today, pay attention to your body and how you're holding yourself. Build a feeling of confidence and positivity. There's all different things. It might be show yourself some more kindness and love, they've all got a little different task on it, and they pick which one they want, and they'll say, I'll work on that this week. But every single little task makes a difference to how you feel about yourself in the world. So that's quite good too. And my stickers, you see my stickers? Bring them in, they're tiny little stickers, nothing special. But what I do with them, got a little box full of stickers. I give them about 3 or 4 stickers, and I'll say, ask your mum or parent or whoever it is if you can stick them in the house, if they can stick them in the house, like on the front door or a mirror where you clean your teeth, or just wherever you can see them all the time. And then what I ask them to do is do this as a family, because remember, everything's about the family. Every time you see a sticker, you have to say something good about yourself, whether you believe it or not. Starting with I am, because I am can only be about you, but nobody else. Every time you see a sticker, if you're cleaning your teeth, you've got to say like, I am enough, I am confident, I am beautiful, I am superwoman, or whatever it is, right? And every time you see a sticker, you have to do that, but you have to say something different. You can't use the same phrase all the time. Mum, dad, brothers, sisters, they all join in. And what you end up with, you have a house full of people all going about, woohoo, I'm wonderful, right? That is a much more positive atmosphere to live in, environment to live in, with everybody making fun of it. What are you going to say today? Oh, I'm going to say I'm absolutely amazing. Do you know what I mean? All this. And it builds up because everything goes into your mind. You're rewriting all that.
Amazing.
These stickers, they've got nothing on them. All they've got is the word Brill. And because I just buy school stickers that are for kids' school books, what you could even use is, the stationery circles you get, the wee dots, coloured dots. Use anything. All it is something to mark a point that every time you see, it could even be a post-it. Every time you see it, somebody's got to say something really good and make it fun. Because instead of saying to yourself, I'm rubbish, I'm useless, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, nobody likes me, which is all the kind of talk these kids have, suddenly they're saying to themselves, wait a minute, I'm amazing, I'm the best, I'm confident, I can do anything, I am great, I'm awesome. And I always say, make it so everybody does it, because everybody's self-regulating in the house.
You've got an Amazon there as well. I'm just looking on Amazon. There's I'll share that. You've got there's $3.99 and it's just 50 stickers. See that? $3.99, 50 stickers. Smile, be the best. Really positive looking stickers there. So and all I've done is typed in there positive affirmation stickers into Amazon.
What you want them to do, though, is you don't want them to read what's on the stickers. You want them to come up with things that are I am, and something that to lift them up.
Right.
It's got to come from their head, and it's got to start with I am.
Okay.
The minute anyone says I am, they can only speak about themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's important, but I am, and they're having to find something to say positive about themselves instead of pulling themselves down and kicking themselves in the teeth, which they tend to do, which we all tend to do at times, every single one of us.
Yeah, you've got the little book of I Ams as well by Emma Lavin. That's a really good book. Have you read Emma's book, Susan?
Probably not.
You'll probably meet Emma anyway, but she's an author. She's a local author from Broxburn. Right. She's devised a little book of I Ams, which she's currently rejigging with different animations. So there's that as well. It's very, very much about what you're
saying. It's really, all these things are really helpful, but I do particularly think it's good for the child or anyone to bring up the I am themselves out their own head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that is the actual key to changing how you actually see yourself. It's for you to find that thing to see yourself. Because the problem with the children that are being really negative and building up these anxieties and not seeing the good in themselves is they can't think anything nice about themselves. So at first they might really struggle to say like, oh, I am. I had a wee girl yesterday and I should say something. I am. I said, I am more than enough. And that's what I said to myself. And she was, well, I'm getting there, right? But that was the best she had, because you're getting people to think. I goes, that's right, you are getting there and you're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what that'll feel like when you are there. So it's all, it might be little steps, but you're pulling them up to get them to think of that, changing that mindset and how they feel. And that's the actual important bit. I hope that makes sense why it's so important that they bring it up themselves and find it. Because it's almost like a journey of self-discovery, that all the things you didn't think you are, you actually are. Just need to find it and notice how wonderful you are. I get a bit passionate about that because to me it's really important. I'm like, ooh, fly the flag for everybody's brilliant.
That's us at 23 minutes past already. Would you
oh God, sorry, I'm never shut up for a minute.
No, shut up.
Any questions?
There's one thing I want to touch on there, and Richard works with people who are going through many issues in the workplace, and it seems to be the young workforce. There's this huge spike in anxiety and depression with the young workforce, which is fascinating, and it's something that I've been reading an awful lot about just the last couple of weeks, is just the huge spike in young people who you would be expecting these people to have, because when we talk about like everything that we're speaking about, it's been there for, I would say, maybe 10, 15 years, maybe starting to just break through the surface now a wee bit more than we have, but I would expect the younger workforce to be much more in tune with themselves now. But
I don't think so.
It's the opposite, Susan.
I don't think they are. I think that the way, you're talking about workplace wellness and wellness in life, but I I was involved in workplace wellness as well. That's when I first got me into this, actually. And I think that everything is after the event. Everything.
Yeah.
In life or anything, people go for help in families that when something has happened, someone has taken ill or anxiety is overmuch. The workplace have got great occupational health. They might have counselling and all the rest of it available. It's all available after something has happened. There's not enough there to educate and enough there on prevention. I'm very big on personal responsibility. I think, yes, these resources should be available in the workplace, but it's all about education and learning people to take care of themselves. And that is the step that I believe is missing.
Yeah.
If people understood the messages they get to their mind and body, and then knew what to do about it, you wouldn't see that. And in a modern day workplace, resources are stretched to the maximum. People have far more pressure put on them than they've ever had on before. Young people going into first jobs, especially in the corporate world and all the rest of it, it's a bit of a shock when you realise exactly what's expected of you. And I hate to say this, but I was a manager in a few corporate businesses. Yes, they've got all these steps there, but if you look at the ACAS guidelines, most of them are just tick boxes to actually say we are doing what's expected to be looking after our workforce. Where in fact, what I always say is what was enough in today's world is no longer enough. And people need to think differently and start doing different to take care of people. And we're not there yet. And that's me stepping off my soapbox now.
I think what I was aiming at, Steve, was what you were saying there, Susan. I mean, that's a webinar in itself. But I think there's
we
lost Richard.
We've lost you, Richard.
Must have been my scary face getting all passionate.
You've gone all quiet on me.
All right, we can hear you now.
Got you now.
It's that sort of thing where it's okay to fail because you need to learn how to recover from it, and that's what sports days used to be about. You came last, but it's okay. That wasn't a bad thing. It was just you learned that that's sometimes where it was in that race, but it might not be on the next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's quite worrying what's happening with kids at the moment, because as you said, Stephen, we normally expect the kids to be a little bit more resilient to that sort of stuff and bounce around a bit. But there's a survey came out at the start of the year, so pre-COVID, and everything's pre-COVID with surveys, is the fact that kids are one of the growth areas, as it were. The 18 to 24-year-olds are a growth area, and there's so much we can do now of what you're describing that can give them the tools to sort of not be part of that statistic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was just a comment. So I'm not going to go on to workplace mental health and all that stuff, and how it's not the engagement's failing to be there, because, as I say, that's a webinar in itself. But
yeah, we could spend the whole day on that.
I think the reduction in human interaction as well is impactful, because a lot of the lessons we used to learn were through all the interactions in the playgrounds and going outside, where people are still interacting, but it's online. So you're not actually got the real interaction. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's almost like you develop a pretend persona online.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you go into an actual workplace or go out in the world, then you're real. But there's a lot of lessons that you've not actually learned that perhaps you need to learn. So, but anyway, that alone is another big subject.
One thing I was completely fascinated by, and it's only been very recently, is my own son, who's 21, and he's always had, a very nurturing upbringing. We've done loads to help him be the best version of himself that he can be. But one thing that I noticed during the whole COVID pandemic, he is an apprentice builder, and he would rather text his boss than pick up the phone and speak to him. And it's just like there's this huge big disconnect with people in that age bracket, 18 to whatever,
It becomes scary to pick up the phone though. That's the problem. You might not say that to you, but it's scarier to pick up the phone and speak than it is to send a text.
I get that, but I also think that we should be changing that and empowering people to be able to have conversations with people.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what it is. That's why it is. It's fear.
Yeah.
It's fear.
It's definitely something I think that we could maybe have another discussion on, maybe helping that age group of people. And I think that might feed beautifully on to Fridays. I think, working with that younger generation of people.
I think the thing about people helping people is that people have got to be in the mindset where they want to be helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got to see that help is helpful, or it's like get lost, I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm. Looking at Richard's comment there, we also have to understand that kids communicate differently these days.
Yeah,
but we can't get we can't get
that's not going to change.
That communicate through text message. It's crazy. We're human beings.
Speaking of which, just before I go, I want to say that I've got a guide to social media, all social media like WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, everything what is, the risks there, how to protect it, how to keep your kids safe. I'm just saying, if anybody wants a copy, they can just ask me.
Oh, good. We could maybe really I don't know how you feel about it being public, Susan, but we could maybe put it in the comments.
I've not got it in a shared drive. I've just got it as a PDF document. So I don't know if I can attach a PDF document now.
Maybe what I could do then is just add your email address to the bottom of the comment section in the YouTube video.
I can't add it to my business page on Facebook because it's not a group, so I can't add a document on it. Yeah. Or I would have just stuck it up there.
I know we're going over time a little bit. Just very quickly, Kelly, you've got your hand up. Are you wanting to ask something? Yeah.
I I have issue with Kayla at school, obviously not at home, everybody kens she's brilliant. She's being bullied by a wee kid that's got ADHD. And for months and months there, she was going into school, she was being picked on, she was telling the teachers, they were saying, oh, so-and-so can't help it, she has behaviour problems, you know, making excuses, and the kid wasn't being sanctioned. And then Kayla was getting herself really wound up and vomiting in school. So because she's vomiting, she's got to stay off for 48 hours, then she's got to go back, and it's the same thing. So we went through a pattern of this for about 3 whole months. And the school weren't taking action. They weren't seen to be doing anything. So I was just wondering if there was maybe some kind of exercise that I could have Kayla do in school before she gets herself that overwrought.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that flopping like a wet noodle, because it's great and it winds you right down. But I would also say go to the website called Respect Me Scotland. Respect Me Scotland is Scotland's dedicated site for bullying, anti-bullying, and it's got all of this resources and support for schools, organisations, parents, and resources for children. And it is absolutely fantastic.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
You put the link in for that, Kelly, are you all right?
Please, Stephen, because I'll forget what it's called. I don't know how the teacher will take to her wet noodling, Ken, in the middle of class, like, but
you can just sit on a chair. I'm doing it now, nobody would know. All you're doing is fully relaxing your body. Or another one you can do is squeeze her fists and curl her toes up. So you're really squeezing your fist and curling your toes up for 5 seconds so you can feel your arms and legs tense, and then just let them go. And that'll dial her down as well.
I have been in and had many conversations with them, but I just can't seem to get through to them, you know, that Kayla shouldn't be making excuses for this other child for how she's feeling.
Have a look on that website. There's loads of stuff about support for schools, parents and children, and it gives you really good advice on how to manage that.
It's very, very good. It's such a good resource.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
There's a lot of downloadable stuff on it as well that you can download and use. So, but that honestly, that's a great resource. And even taking some of that stuff into the school and saying, you know, that these are the strategies that we've been working through, Kayla and I, and how she can manage anxiety in the classroom. Is it okay when you see Kayla flopping a little bit there like a wet noodle, like that's her managing her anxiety? Just having that conversation, and the teachers can't disagree with that.
Teachers, parents and teachers, everyone in Scotland is entitled or that can apply to go on the I've forgotten what it's called, Respect Me Scotland courses, and they can get trained on how to actually manage bullying. And I think it's a good thing that teachers or even headmistresses, I've got a big light going down my face coming can go on that. I've done the course and I've done the training, so I was trained in it, and I know that it's free, and that they encourage organisations to go on that and learn about it and how to manage it free of charge. So it's well worth it. I would speak to the school about it and say, if you heard of Respect Me Scotland, do you know that you can get extra?
They'll know it. They'll definitely know it. I think they've got a lot of posters in most of the schools with Respect Me Scotland.
But are they sticking posters on the wall, or are they actually doing something about it? That's the difference.
Yeah, well, this is true.
They'll put a poster on the wall.
Honestly, I didn't like their attitude towards it, and obviously, as soon as I walk in, her face changes. She lights right back up again, and then she's home for 2 days. And then as soon as she goes back in, you're talking a couple of hours, and they were suggesting that she was actually physically making herself sick.
Yeah, I think just having a very open, honest conversation with the school would probably change that.
Mm-hmm.
See how you get on with it anyway, but obviously,
I will do. Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. And very, very quickly, anybody got anything that they want to ask before we go? Because we're like 7 minutes over time, and we do promise that we only give you an hour. Otherwise, we'd be here all morning, Susan, chatting about everything, wouldn't we? And we've got Imagine Dragons to go listen to.
I've got a client in 15 minutes.
Well, have you? So you do need to.
Can I just say quickly, if anybody's looking for stickers, Primary Teaching Services do great stickers, and you can actually get them personalised as well. That's where I get my stickers for when I'm using them for work.
That's where I get mine
Primary
from as well.
Services, yeah.
Brilliant. Primary, what did you say it was?
Teaching Services. They'll send it a brochure.
Yeah, and you
can do
get
it
a
all
huge
online.
selection, and they're really cheap. You get hundreds, loads of them, cheats and cheats of them.
I'll pop these links in the comments and the YouTube video, so it just helps everybody. They've got those resources. So that's us, guys. We could have went on and on and on and on and on about this subject. Susan and I will have a wee chat about what Friday's topic is, but tomorrow morning we have got someone from the health and fitness industry, one of my good friends, coming on, who's going to be speaking about fitness and how getting active, tiny little steps to getting active can make such a difference to your mental, emotional well-being, also your physical well-being as well. So you'll have us both on tomorrow talking about that. And then on Wednesday, back by popular demand, we have got the very lovely Donna Fairley, who is our sleep behavioural therapist. And Donna will be talking about how essential sleep is for us, why we need sleep, and everything to do with sleep. And we'll see Susan on Friday morning. So thank you very much, Susan. Sarah Jane's asking very quickly, the cards for teens.
Yes, you can. They're called can-do cards.
Can-do cards.
It's actually a can of cards, and they're called can-do cards.
Ah, cool. Sarah Jane, if you need any more advice on those cards, just send me a wee message or send Susan a wee message at perfectsolutionscoaching.co.uk. And I shall see you all later. See you all tomorrow. And Susan, we will see you Friday morning. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
you. Bye.
Bye for now.